I interviewed Ruby Dubuisson in Clinton, North Carolina, February the 3rd, 2012. The following are her stories.
My name is Ruby Dubuisson, and I grew up on Jones's farm. I was one of 5 children and the oldest. On the farm, the children were allowed to play at the end of the rows where the mamas were preparing vegetables, picking vegetables to go to the cannery, which fed the students. So, as we got older, and some of them when they were in the 4th or 5th grade, quit school to go to work on the farm. I myself quit at 14 and went to Pineland to work. I had to walk 2 miles one way. Come rain or snow or sleet or whatever, you were expected to be on that job. So and the job was not bad, it really wasn't. We did serving, or we did the cleaning of the tables and making of the salads. My friend, Alice Faircloth, and I went to work together, and we lived on Jones's farm. When the vegetables, let me get back to that too, so that you could better understand where I'm coming from. The vegetables were grown to feed those children. That was at 4 or 5 different houses. There was Little Women, where the little ones went. There was Whitehall, where the little older girls went. There was Junior Barracks, where the younger boys went, and EMI, where the older boys went. At first, just before I started working up there at Pineland in the cafeteria part, the students were eating in their own buildings. But I don't know why, but they decided then that they all were to come over to Pineland College and eat. And so it was made arranged that the little ones would come first. And they came and they ate, and as soon as they got out, it was almost like clockwork. It really worked good. And the Junior Barracks one came. And then the older ones. And each class, or each grade, mostly I think I don't know much about Junior Barracks, but I know that some of the girls from the Pineland and some of the boys from EMI, they came over and taken music lessons. And Miss Emily Stark was the music teacher, and oh, was she good. And Mrs. Barber was in charge of the older girls at Pineland. It was a great job. I really loved it. I loved the children that were in there. Some of them I remember their names till today. And it was just really, really encouraging to see the children grow. The kids on the farm, we went to public school, and we walked the same 2 miles or more to school. And there was usually about 15 of us that met about halfway, and we all walked together. Whoever got there first waited for the other ones. Sometimes, if we were lucky, we could catch a ride on the milk wagon. Mr. Faircloth milked the cows every day, taking the milk out to Pineland for the children. They made butter, and Mrs. Warren, she was mostly head of the kitchen, and then Miss Eunice Faircloth, dear lady, she worked with her, and there were 7 of us that worked in the dining area preparing food. But let me get back to the children. The children we came from 15 different families. There was 15 families that worked 450 acres. There was 450 acres, and it was made or turned into vegetables, which was picked in the morning, taken to the cannery at night or evening, and prepared in the cannery. And we didn't get, when they were working there, you didn't quit till you had it all done and packed. So Mr. Anderson, he was kind of an overseer for us. And he rode a mule around from different areas of the 450 acres. And so he would assign so many here and so many there. And they were supposed to pick just the ones that was just ready. Not give, pick any that was too ripe or not large enough. Then, I don't know the reason for all the moving the families did on that farm, but I do know that I lived 2 times in 2 of the houses. When Mr. Reiner passed, they knew that Miss Reiner and her 3 children could not take care of the hog farm. Everything that was needed for that college was grown or housed down on that farm. And there was hogs, there was cows, there was chickens. And they would take a day to prepare these animals and the chickens for food. When I get back to the families, over in one section of the land, Mr. Jones decided he was going to try cotton. And there was a bunch of, and I think it was about a 5-acre field. He was just going to try and see what he could get out of it. And my 2 aunts had met this woman in uptown. And when I say uptown, I'm talking about Salemburg, because nobody went much further than Salemburg. And so this girl from Hamburg, her name was Maddie Bell Drawn, and she taken a liking to my uncle. So she went to Granddaddy's house and decided she liked it there, and she was going to stay there. Well, word got to Mr. Jones. And so that evening, as we were leaving the fields, he called my uncle over to his car. And he said, "Fleet, what's your intentions with Mad Bell?" He said, "Well, we're going to get married." He said, "We just haven't got over to the courthouse to do it done." Well, Mr. Jones said we could do it right now. And so in his car, he brings out this book, and he has this certificate. And he stands right there and marries them. Now, nasty, feet with her, barefooted, he married them. And it was a good marriage, because they raised 7 children. I want to tell you a little bit about my life and my dad. My grandfather was Cherokee, and so he and his tribe, part of his tribe, came down from Cherokee and lived over near Roseboro. And so Mama, let me get back. My daddy was born on that farm about 1912. Okay, yeah, that's right. And my mama was born in 1910. My grandfather came as he was a young man, and my grandmother was also Indian, and she had came from Cherokee, an area, but they settled closer to Salemburg. And so it come to be that my grandfather was, everybody walks, of course. He came over towards Salemburg for some reason, I don't know, but he met my grandma. And so they kind of courted a little bit, and then about, I don't know what year they married. They had been married about 3 years before Daddy was born, though. My grandfather came from Cherokee in the 1900s, somewhere in that area. He moved into a house down on Jones's farm after he and my grandmother were married, and they lived in that house almost all their life. In fact, my granddaddy, he died in that house. We all loved to go to Granddaddy's house, and he had swings for us kids. And he had he got us some rope and made us jump ropes, and we played marbles, and we played hopscotch, and we played that one that you go around and then who they tag you, you have to chase them.
Tag.
Something, I can't remember what that name of that one was, but that was right much fun. Then we played one, says, Rover, Rover, something, come and jump over, and you two would hold hands, and who it was would run to see if they could break that grip of the two people. And if he did, then they had to go back and come over.
Did you ever do jump board?
Oh yes, we jump board too. Yeah, yes we did. We had jump rope, swings, marbles. We had.
Did you ever do a string? Did you ever make figures out of a string?
No, I didn't do that. But there was one that you hopscotch where the blocks are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did that too, hopscotch.
We played Mother May I.
Oh yes, we played Mother May I too, and
dodgeball. We draw a big circle in the dirt, and then you stayed in that, and you throw the ball and try and hit somebody who's in the circle.
Yes, we did. We played that also. We sure did. But on Sunday, we would go out to the cow pasture, and we played softball. And they would be a whole group of the kids. And there was children that come down there that was friends of some of us.
Just to play softball.
I'll tell you a little secret. Won't be no secret no more, will it? Okay, I had a date with this boy, 16 years old. And you know it wasn't important. I was out in the cow pasture playing ball. And he went to my house, and Mom told him where I was at. So he decided that he would go over there and get me. Well, they came over and picked me up, and I had to go back home and get a bath just about it, and change clothes and all. But I thought that later years, I thought now that was a funny, I wasn't interested in that date.
About how old were you?
I was around 15, somewhere along, and 16, somewhere along.
And then what did you do when he came to pick you up?
Well, when he came to pick me up, he took me back to my house. And I washed up, and he came in and was sitting talking to my father. And so I got a bath and changed clothes, and we went to Roseboro to the movie.
Did he have a car?
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He was one of the, more fortunate, may I say that way? But, yes, and then we went to Roseboro to the movies. And they had this outdoor theater. And cars would go, and they had these meters on the side, and you go in and pay. I don't remember how much it wasn't too much. So but pay to go to see the movies. And so you took the meter off the stand and put it in the window of your car, and you could hear the noise and see it up on the screen. And so that was one of the things that for young people to do back then. We really didn't have too much to do in Salemburg. I don't know why, as far as the entertainment. Now in Clinton, ones of us that was fortunate to go on weekends, they had a skating ring. And earlier part, they had a bowling lanes. And so I got to play some of both of them. But it was really fun. If most of the time when your dates come, you stay at home and courted on the porch or living room, and parents were either not too far from you or in another room. And so it was a lot different than now. I worked in the store that belonged to the college. It was called the college store. And I worked in it for about a year and a half or so. And the students would come in the store. They'd get little breaks every so often, and they would come in the store. We had seats and everything, and they would stay almost their whole time in there. They'd come in and buy hot dogs, hamburgers, or they would know what they were going to have for supper, and if they didn't want it, they would always come over and get them something from the grill, which I also did. I ran it most of the time by myself. It was also a stopping place for the bus, Trailways. And so if anybody came and wanted to go somewhere on the bus, I had to get them a ticket. And the kids that would come in, I can almost visualize them. They would come in and we had a jukebox. And they would get out there, and this Strickland, he was a Strickland, and if I'm not mistaken, he was from Fayetteville. But anyway, one day, a bunch of them are dancing on the floor. The girls, was a few girls there, too. And he came to me and said, "Come on, Ruby, let's dance." I said, "I don't know how to dance." He said, "Well, just follow me." He said, "Just move your feet." And I did. He was, he was such a sweetheart. And there was another one that I particularly got real fond of, was a little one for junior barracks. And he was from Ohio. And but I can't remember his name right now. But he was so precious. Oh, he was a doll. And so kind, and had wonderful manners for a child that age, at that time. But anyway, the children would come in, and oh, how they would have fun. They would put some money in that jukebox, and they sit there. If they didn't dance, they were out there stomping their feet to the music. As I mentioned earlier about the college store, the kids would come in there, like I said, dancing. But it was get slow in the early 50s to dance. Miss Molly Jones, she put a stop to anything she wanted to. And so she stopped the students and everybody else from dancing. So in 1951, after Miss Molly had died in 45, died in year 45, after that, there was a lot of things that the students weren't allowed to do that they were able to do. Oh, and I want you to know also that the students were supervised when they were over to the store. There was an elder cadet for the boys and an older girl that supervised the girls. And so they would come over there after Miss Molly had died, and they danced. And it was great working with the lady that I was working with. She had lost her husband, and I can't remember her name right now since it's been so many years.
Well, what year were you? That was 51.
And I worked there to the early part of 53.
Did local people come in there also?
Oh, yes. Local people came in to get sandwiches or drink ice cream or, it was just, we only sold hamburgers and hot dogs. And I had to make the chili. And the first chili I made, we were already out to start with. And I fixed this hamburger for this boy. And he said, "What in the world have you done to the chili?" I said, "What you mean, what I've done to the chili?" Well, I was going to put a little soy sauce in it to make it a little bit darker, but I picked up the hot sauce by instead. But I had it so near made and fixed, I couldn't take it out. So that's what the boy got. He got one that had some hot pepper sauce on it.
What were the hours of the store when you were there?
Our hours for the store was 9 to 6. And
was that on Saturday also?
Any day it was 9 to 6. That also was the bus stops.
Okay, but not on Sunday.
No. And they would come and because it had to be in between their bus, their coming, that we had to be open. Mm-hmm. And so
those were long hours.
Yeah,
Did you work the whole time?
Yeah, they was long hours. We didn't have a break. I didn't have a break. I worked the whole time. Or maybe I'd run up to the post office,
How much did you get paid, Ruby?
How much did I get paid? Well, working there, I got $12 a week. But working in the college, well, I got $5.50 a week.
And how many days did you work?
Every day.
6 days?
7 to 7
days? 7 days a week?
Yep.
Even on Sunday?
Well, there was once in a while you'd be able to trade with somebody else. Now, we had one lady that worked with us, and she had a daughter that was in school there. Mm-hmm. And so they would let her off some to be with her daughter. So sometimes she was really nice, and she would trade hours with me, mm-hmm. and I would get to go off.
And how old were you?
How old was I then? I was 21 when I got married. About around 18, something like 18, 19.
But now when you started working on the farm, you were?
About 7, yeah. And like I said, started off about the children playing at the end of the roads. The mamas that worked, we didn't have babysitters. And so the women, they would bring the children out there, and the older ones was able to work. They worked. And the younger ones that couldn't work, they played at the end of the roads. And what they would do, the mamas would do, they would stick 4 sticks down in the ground, and they had a blanket they brought from home, and they would tie the ends of that blanket around these poles. And so that gave us a little bit of shade. But it was fun. I remember Mama taking my brother and I out there.
What kind of games did you play?
Oh, we just sit and, run each other and tag and all that kind of stuff, But it was so fun. It was hard work when we started working, but it was memories I'll never forget. I want to tell you a little bit about my grandfather and grandmother. They were both Cherokee Indians, and somehow they decided that they was going to migrate back this way. So my grandfather and them, they chose Roseboro, or outside the city limits of Roseboro. And so he was down here, or came down to Sampson County sometime in the 1900s. Early 1900s, possibly 1909. Now, my grandmother, they came down too, but they settled around Salemburg. My grandfather, one weekend, he was just out walking or going, because they had to walk. So they decided to go to Salemburg. And there he met my granny. And so they courted for a while and got married. And when they got married, they moved to Jones's farm. They lived there and worked there all their life. My grandfather never moved out of that house. He loved the house, he loved the land, and he loved the people that worked on Jones's farm. And on the weekend, he was never liking for company. Children loved to go to Granddaddy's. When we would play and he made us swings, we jumped the rope, we played hopscotch and marbles and all of that, and just had the best time. But really, I want to tell you also now about my mama and daddy. Mama, she lived between Salemburg and Roseboro. My father actually was born on Jones's farm. And I really don't know how they met. But anyway, they met, and about 20 months later, I was born. And I'm the oldest of 5 children. And my mom's name was Betty, and my daddy's name was a funny name. And everybody called him Tobe. He was known as Tobe Sessoms all his life. Granny called him one day, called him Tobe, and from that, it was Tobe. I was born in 1932, the oldest of my father and mother's children. And we also lived on Jones's farm, and lived on Jones's farm until 19, let me see. They moved one time from one house and then to another house. I don't know what it was about the moving of people from one house to the other than, like when Mr. Reiner passed, he worked the hog farm. And so when he died, Mr. Ashley Mr. Jones moved us down at the hog farm. So actually how it works with people. They could have people move to these areas that they were capable of having somebody that could help them out real quick. And so the hogs were raised down there to help feed the students. We also had a chicken farm. And those chickens, eggs and chicken was gathered for the students. It was at the vegetable farm I've already told you about. And so I stayed down there and worked until I was approximately 18 years old, I guess. And then I left the college, working in a dining room at the college, and I went to the college store. And I worked there about 3 years. And then I quit working there. And I went to Roseboro then, worked for a Parker's store over at Roseboro. And that's where I met my dear husband. And we courted about 3 months. And, and he kept asking me to marry him. And I'd tell him, you must be kidding, or what is this? So one day we was just riding over on 24, and he asked me again to marry him. I said, okay. Well, let me tell you, that Chevrolet, it picked up speed. It was almost like the wings of an airplane. When he got in the store, he called Dillon, South Carolina. He didn't know my last name. He didn't know the age. And all this, he was asking me all this while he was talking to the judge in Dillon. And they told us then, this was on Sunday afternoon, to be there Monday night at 8 o'clock, and he married us. Well, you can believe that Chevrolet made it down there before 8. And we got married, had a wonderful life, have 2 beautiful daughters, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. That's my life.